Hey everyone, and welcome to another session of Converge 2025. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm excited in this session to be joined by Lonnie Johnson. He's the Director of Marketing and Communications with North American Rescue. He's going to be talking to us a little bit about kind of the transformation that his team has undergone in terms of bringing the whole organization into the RoboHead application, how they made that valuable to the organization, how they used it to ultimately improve and grow their department, and what they did to kind of get buy-in when in the past similar efforts had been a challenge for them. So, Lonnie, would love to hear a little bit about you and your role within North American Rescue. Anything else you'd like to say that I haven't said already?
Well, thanks, Will. I'm pleased to be here and definitely am very excited about the opportunity to talk a little bit about how RoboHead has really been critical in helping us as a department and as an organization to become better at managing our time and resources and become more efficient at the projects that we have to manage. A little bit about me as far as history. I've been here at North America Rescue for just about 18 and a half years. So I've been here for a long time. And when I interviewed for this job, one of my first questions was to ask them, so tell me how you handle project management in your company. And everybody at the table looked around at one another, laughed a little bit, and pretty much said post-it notes. And so that was really what I started with, was dealing with people catching me in the hallway, people wanting to put post-it notes on my monitor while I was at lunch, with very cryptic descriptions of the kind of task they wanted. Um, so that was a long time ago, certainly long before I got in league with you guys and was able to work with your project. But I've tried quite a few different systems, and adoption had been a challenge all along. Our team, many of them are on the road frequently. We attend a lot of trade shows throughout the year, a lot of customer visits. So that made it difficult for people to have access if they were only on their phones, or if they could only get on their laptops in the evenings. So finding any solution that would help improve the efficiencies for how they could interact with my team, whether that's submitting anything that becomes a request, to having some way to approve proofs and projects as they go through the process. So we've used RoboHead extensively in order to really build out an automated workflow that helps my team, helps my organization, the key stakeholders that we have to interact with, and it's been really a valuable part of our growth over the last several years. So.
Awesome. And you mentioned how your team is at a lot of trade shows. And so real quick, just kind of I guess the quick elevator pitch, or North American Rescue is, if I understand correctly, you're basically a product company. And so you're building web, digital, and print collateral for kind of healthcare or trauma like products like tourniquets and things like that, right? Can you elaborate on
That's
kind of what you're doing
that's
a little?
it. Yeah. So we got our roots in the world of military medicine. It's where we started with our founder. He was a pararescueman, a PJ from the Air Force, and he identified quite a few different gaps of medical equipment and resources that could help people save lives in major trauma. So uh, we kind of like to say that we provide the kind of equipment that you want to have on your belt, in your bag, in your purse, on your person, when somebody's shooting you or blowing you up, because you don't have time to wait for an ambulance and you don't have time to wait for a helicopter to get you out of there. If you don't stop major bleeding or major trauma at the point of wounding, then you're probably not going home. So that's kind of been our mission, is to help increase survivability by selling these kinds of products. Of course, historically, that kind of started in the military with the combat situations over the last several decades, the United States have been involved in. But then, as we've all seen, that has trickled down into our everyday lives. We see that there are active shooter situations and mass casualty situations across the United States, and people who never thought they would need to be able to stop major bleeding are actually the first responders now. Whether you're a professional or not, you're there. And so we're equipping civilians across all kinds of markets. So we've expanded extensively from military to law enforcement to professional EMS, firefighters, and now workplace safety, public access bleeding control, everything that you would need, even if you were out in the backwoods hiking. Um, Go hunting, anywhere that you might find yourselves experiencing a major trauma, you need more than just Band-Aids and Neosporin, is what we like to say. So that's what we specialize in.
I have a lot of bandits and Neosporin, but hopefully that's all I need. But if not, I
Yes,
know where to go. So obviously, the product itself is it. This is important stuff. Kind of the messaging is important, but then also there's some technical information around how do you use this product in the right way in the field and all of that. And so as we kind of get started, your team obviously is not just producing these supporting materials that are helping the sales team out in the field, but you're doing a high volume of them. Some of them are fairly technical in nature, but you're also working to kind of become a strategic resource to help the organization launch new products and drive more business and revenue and be able to help more folks. So as you kind of started this change within the organization to streamline your project management from just post-it notes, as you said, in the past, to ultimately where we've come today. Can you talk a little bit about kind of some of the challenges that you faced and how you maybe started to overcome those, or how you even figured out which problem to solve first, right? Like I think
sure.
of kind of what you do.
Yeah.
If you're in a trauma situation, you got to figure out what's the biggest problem and how do I fix, what do I solve that, like major bleeding.
Yep.
Same thing at a much smaller scale in terms of maybe importance, but how'd you approach that within the organization and within your team specifically?
Well, definitely creative problem solving is what most of us in the creative industry do, whether that's it's all based on communication and figuring out a solution to your problem. And much of my issue that our organization struggled with when it came to communicating well with marketing and giving my marketing department the ability to communicate well with the stakeholders on our projects really had to do with platform, to be honest. Everybody was very comfortable with sending emails, but not so comfortable with logging into a specific website in order to manage projects. Or, we tried a variety of things. The list is long and painful, um, but ultimately, what we settled on was something that enabled us the ability to work within what our team was comfortable with, at the same time, uh, find a system that worked for us to manage that chaos, right? Um, Long ago, we started saying, you can't just send an email and do what we call fire and forget, right? A lot of people do that. They send an email, and I told you on X date at this time that I wanted this project done. And oddly enough, I got 175 emails that day, and somehow it got clicked as read, and I didn't do anything with it. And 3 weeks later, when they're getting ready to go for their trade show, they ask, "Where is that?" I'm like, "Where's what?" So I needed a system that helped me document the requests. Then I needed a system that gave them confirmation that they had submitted one, so they knew that I had received it, and I knew that I had it in a central place that I could use to go view what it is that we're focused on. Um, uh, so RoboHead enabled me to do that very efficiently because of the email request system. So I'm able to have them submit an email directly to the system. The subject line becomes the title of the job. The body of the email becomes the notes section, and it automatically comes in with who's requested it. I know who wants this project. If I have questions, I can go back and ask them. But I've taken time for most of our team to train them pretty well to make sure that they understand that if you're going to do this, you have to tell me everything I need to know in order to do the job. So it's improved communication, which has reduced frustration, and improved efficiencies because now I get the job. I know everything we need to do. I can go ahead and traffic that in, and looking at my team and the resources based on skill set and or bandwidth, I'm able to then delegate those projects out and get them in the queue so that we can meet the requests on time. So that's been really a big advantage for us because while they can log into a system and submit a request, and I do have quite a few that do. There's a lot that are on the road so much with trade shows every year that they're not going to do that. It's not convenient. They're on their phone, or it's late at night and they're getting dinner after they've been at a show all day. They don't want to get their laptop out and go submit a request. They can pop an email. I get notification. They get notification. Everybody knows what's happening on the project as it goes through the cycle through completion. So it's been good. It's been very efficient for
Okay,
that.
so kind of parroting back, what I'm hearing is like a friction point or choke point with any ticketing system or any project management tool is, hey, we got to get these people that they're not part of my team, they don't live in the system, but we need to get them to use it. And so for you, it's like, hey, we need to make that as frictionless as possible. So we're going to use RoboHead's email to request function. That way, yes, maybe there's still some stuff we need to do with the form, but we're at least able to get the nuts and bolts of what we need in the system. So you don't have to go find it somewhere else and then move it over into the system. And then I guess kind of to me, like kind of a trickle down or a residual effect is that over time, not all, but some of those users are like
Hmm.
they
Hmm.
begin to find the value potentially in logging into the system to check the status or to fill out the full ticket or something like that. And
Yep.
so we're
Yep.
able to get everyone in, account for those folks that don't ever want to get into your tool,
Yep.
to still get it
Yep.
in the tool, and then by extension, hopefully we pull some folks in over time. Is that fair enough?
Yeah, that's very fair. And it's been very successful from that standpoint. As new employees come in on the company, I'm able to add them in the system and it's intuitive and it's easy for them to get in there and see how to review something whenever there's a proof. And they get, like I said, they get notifications. They know that the request is in the queue and has been approved. They know when it's been completed. And if we use the notes feature, we can at mention them, ask them questions. And quite a few of our team members now are even using that within themselves whenever there's a group of people on a specific review and they can carry on a chat within that. The big benefit to us is that it's centralizing all that commentary, and the trail of decision, if you will. So we understand why we came to this conclusion. In 6 months, when somebody asks me, why did we do this? Well, I can look at the thread and tell you why we did this because this was the consensus. Um, but it also gives them the ability, because they'll get email notifications about those notes or comments, to just reply from their email address and it goes into the actual request, which is that's again that's a huge advantage for us because now we're not having to transfer that, as a file attachment or something like that in order to get it into there for records
Okay,
keeping.
perfect. So
Um,
if that's kind of the first piece to fall, if you will, once you've got, so now we got the requests all coming into a single place and you're able to traffic them. Can you talk a little bit about what you're doing there? Like how have you improved the trafficking process? How have you improved kind of getting things assigned out to folks? What's the next stage in this?
Sure. Yeah. So, a big part of the benefit of the system is the automated workflows and the ability for me to build out a workflow, and then save that so that it's a template. And later on, I can assign that workflow template to a project as it comes in. It makes it really efficient, particularly because I can use roles, which the roles basically, I can say I've got four people that are designers, and then I got four people that are videographers and that are doing the video projects. So based on which role I choose for this task, I only have to look at that short list, not the full list, and scroll around. So it just saves time and builds efficiency, as I do the trafficking for these projects. And of course, obviously that is built in with things that have, a workflow that when task one is finished, task two automatically starts and goes into process. And then, and the same thing is true when the task prior to a review cycle is completed. It asks for the submitted art that needs to go into it, and then they upload that, and it goes right through. So that in itself cuts down on a lot of time, particularly or time and or communication for doing things in a more manual process. Because once I build that project and task it out, uh, I don't have to babysit it as much, but I get notifications as an admin to see what's going on. So each day I can go look in my email. I have a folder, all my RoboHead stuff goes in there, and I can see all the projects, who's reviewed it. I can see that the sales team finished their review, and now it's on to our product management team and the regulatory team. Um, and so I can see that progress and kind of have a mental picture of what's happening within our list of things and where things might get stalled out. Um, and what that gives me is data. So I'm able to take that information, how many projects did we add to the system? How many tasks did that require? How many review processes were initiated? Like last month, I think we did 300 and some reviews. So it lets me kind of keep track of that and report that upstream whenever the question is, how is your team performing and how are you managing what it is that you need to accomplish? I can show them that we're over 16. I think we're right around 1,600 projects have been completed this year thus far with our team. Um, and I had gotten new headcount this year. So I can justify that because last year in December, at the end of the year, I was at 1,400 projects completed. So we're up 200 already. I'm justifying now my headcount, the growth of the department, and what we're doing as a team and how we're able to be more efficient than what we were
Okay.
previously.
And so for
So
you, obviously that project increase, not only is it justifying the headcount, but ultimately, because so many of your projects are tied around product, this
mhm,
is launching new
mhm.
SKUs or
Yep,
providing,
yep,
refreshing a landing page that maybe we didn't have time to deal with in the past of something that is existing. So it's both kind of helping grow the current business, but also helping add, like, more quickly get things through pipelines so stuff can be released to the market. Is that right? Or
that's exactly it. Yep. And we do a lot of both. We do a lot of maintenance, where we have, updates to labeling or packaging or instructions for use, or we change the components of a kit. We add a new feature or new capability into a kit. And now we have to go take all new photo assets. We have to update the website, the descriptions, the list of the content that's in that kit. So there's a lot of touch points that go into that. Long ago, I had made what I called affectionately my change impact matrix, which sounded really fantastic, right? Um, but that was in order to help the organization understand when you say, let's just do this is really what happened. You dropped a grenade in the middle of the marketing department, and now I have to do, all these new photo assets. We have to update video assets. We have to update labeling assets. We have to update the website. We have to update our social media materials. There's so many points. We provide assets to our distributors. We have to update those. All those different things get affected when you said, let's just do this. Um, and so this system allows me through the automated workflows, and to manage my resources within my team to make sure that we don't forget all those touch points because I can put those as tasks, right? Don't forget that we have to update the videos. Don't forget we have to update the we have to archive the old images and get them out of the system so that nobody uses them again on accident. All that kind of stuff becomes tasks within a project to make sure that we complete it cleanly and efficiently and accurately.
and
So
that, and now from a reporting standpoint, you're talking about like coaching up or teaching up or sharing up to the organization. It's not just how many projects we did, but what all was entailed in those projects. and
exactly,
and
exactly.
then, I think it seems like you had mentioned keeping track of everything. There's also a fair amount of back and forth that will happen sometimes between you and the field, both with proofs as well as just with notes in general. Is that
Oh
right?
yeah,
You're
oh yeah.
pretty, you mentioned like 300 reviews completed in a month or something. So there's a ton of back and forth that's happening at the project level and the proof level, and
Yep,
having
yep.
that in RoboHead has been valuable as well.
It has. It's been really valuable. I mean, the ability to manage the proofing the way that we do through RoboHead has been it's intuitive and it's simple enough that the non-technical team members are able to utilize it. which that's an important thing for us because we do have folks who just don't grasp complex systems, right? And this has been simple enough, similar to the idea of what you do with annotations in Acrobat, which most people have been exposed to. But the number one thing we get used is just that little comment bubble because it's intuitive and they grab it and they paste it all over where they need to put comments, and it's effective, and that's what's good for us.
That's another one of the things that, like, as you say this, it's like what's effective, what gets everyone in, and then
Mhm.
some subset of that as they grow, they start using like the text select, or they draw a
Yeah,
box around a graphic for once, and you're like, oh my gosh, they did it. But regardless, it's all in there, and then as folks have different needs or learn and get more comfortable, they'll continue to use the tool even better. But it's still kind of low friction entry into the system.
exactly,
You had
exactly.
mentioned around kind of all of the stuff that happens, right? You're creating all of the, in order to get a product out the door, you've got to do a photo shoot and all of this stuff. So that also ties up, I think, with like new product launches and campaigns, right? You kind
Yep,
of
yep.
pretty not aggressively, but you extensively utilize the campaign function and
We
kind of
do, we
even
do.
created campaign templates. Can you talk a little bit about how you've used campaigns and what you found valuable there?
Sure, sure. And if you'd like, I'll share a little bit of my screen while I do that, and just give you the ability to see one of our campaigns that we are working on right now. So this what you're seeing right now is kind of the dashboard, and I can see a lot of what activity is going on, as well as kind of just keep a finger on the pulse of how many active projects and the pace of completed things. Of course, that's the life of how long we've been in the system. But campaigns in particular have been a great addition to the system, and I'm really glad that this got added. Because, for example, we're working on our after Thanksgiving sale. I was able to create this campaign really quickly by utilizing the campaign actions and going over and copy as a new campaign. And I did that from one that I had archived. And then I would, because I duplicated it, it went ahead and created all the projects within this campaign and the relationships that they had. So I kind of was able to do that one time of say, when I look at my schedule, I want to have I'll scroll down here real quick and find it. So the creative project, whenever it finishes, I want this to automatically trigger several other projects because they're waiting on these assets before they can start. And this is super great for automating that whole how do you get one project to finish and all these other things to start? Well, you can say that the predecessor to this is another project within this campaign at this step. And that's been a great advantage for my team and myself in managing these. And when I copy a project or the whole campaign, it remembers those things, which is, again, it's nice. It saves a whole lot of time in setting up and organizing the traffic patterns. I just need to go in and change my start and end dates of each of the sections. Maybe I need to reassign something to different people within the team. But but boy, that saves a ton of effort from a traffic managing standpoint for building out something with 8 to 10 projects within a whole
Gotcha.
campaign.
So we know
Um,
we know for our after Thanksgiving sale, these are the 10 projects we typically do, and maybe we delete one or we add a couple or whatever, but I've at
exactly.
least got the basic blueprint is there, and then if I need to kind of build an addition, I go add another project, or if I need to delete something, I go pull it out. But it just kind
That's
of gets you
exactly
further
it.
down the
Yep.
path right away. And then the other piece that you mentioned with the scheduling, particularly since you're like triggering things to start, is really just understanding that, hey, this project supersedes these others because we got to build the assets first. Now once they're built, we're going to take those assets and integrate them into all these other design elements that we have to do, or communications elements we have to do.
Yep. Yep. And it's really easy to do that setup. So, I mean, like here's an example. And I can see that the predecessor to this step here is, let's see if I can go ahead and fit everything on the screen there. So the predecessor to requesting any sample products so that we can start this is whether or not the assets have been sent to the Marcom team, and that is the completion of the creative. So, because obviously motion graphics can't start their process until we have the campaign logo created, right? So, and then they're going to animate that. So this just, and it's easy to do. Just you can quickly come in and edit that uh, and tell it, I want you to start with which of the projects in here and what step. So it makes it really efficient for getting a pretty complex uh, campaign automation workflow going, and then reusing that and not having to reinvent the wheel every time. So
So we've touched on a lot as we kind of went through this, and so just kind of, you know, I guess summarizing it is, it's really the value of bringing all of your work into a single system, getting the business, not just your team, but the business stakeholders on board and making the adoption as frictionless as possible so that we can kind of initiate those requests within the tool,
mhm.
quickly get those deployed out to the right folks with the schedules built, roll them up together under related campaigns when we're doing a product launch or a holiday event or something like that. And then from all of that, taking the data and communicating upstream to either, be able to be a more strategic partner and take on stuff that in the past would have fallen through the cracks, be able to add headcount when we need to do that. What else? Am I missing anything else? Can you kind of, if we're wrapping a bow around this, what else would you have to share?
Well, I think that you kind of just mentioned it there. I mean, the big part is that historically, because of the challenge of keeping so many moving parts organized, it was really difficult to do more than just maintain maintenance, right? So we were being tasked with so many projects and requests for things that needed to be updated, that had that impact change matrix get activated, um, that we didn't really have a lot of time to focus on being more strategic with our marketing. And the way that our sales team and our marketing team and our product management team and regulatory team all interact is that we do, each group has their kind of their own priorities. And it's important for me to be able to have the bandwidth and the focus and to be able to get things into the pipeline that are marketing initiated, because everybody else is working on what they need, but the organization does need things that come from a pure marketing perspective. And that's where RoboHead has really enabled me to get a better grasp on our available bandwidth, to justify the headcount additions that we needed in order to, what we would call affectionately, to become more of a weapon, right? Rather than just dealing with the changes and the maintenance of our messaging to the world, but to actually come up with a plan to put out good messaging that isn't in reaction to a change. So product launches are a big part of that, but also just branding initiatives. Um, you know, uh, Campaigns for digital marketing projects. A lot of our more B2C initiatives for special discounts and sales. Those are things are all being driven by the marketing department, and it's a valuable addition to how the company reaches our customers and our potential customers. So.
Lonnie, thank you so much for sharing with us. Everyone else, thanks so much for joining us for this session of Converge. We've got more coming, so please be sure to continue with us. If you do have any questions that we've not been able to get to, please don't hesitate to reach out, and either myself, a member of the team, or we'll pull Lonnie in as well if it's specific around North American Rescue. So thanks again, and we'll talk to you here in a little bit soon.